On April 28th, Taiwanese manufacturer Inventec announced a major investment of approximately $85 million to establish a server manufacturing facility in Texas. As one of the top 3 original equipment manufacturers, OEM, Inventec holds a leading position in the server industry, particularly in server motherboard design. It designs an estimated 60 to 70% of global server motherboards and commands over 23% of the global share in motherboard shipments. Inventec stated that this investment aligns with its global strategy to strengthen ties with existing clients, meet demands for localized production, and expand into new markets. It also aims to mitigate the impact of fluctuating U.S. tariff policies, enhance supply chain resilience, and maintain market competitiveness. Driven by high demand from U.S. cloud service providers like Amazon AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud, AI server assembly will be prioritized for relocation to the U.S. Inventec's choice of Texas for its manufacturing base is driven by several key considerations. First, Texas's proximity to Mexico complements Inventec's Juarez factory, enabling regional coordination, streamlined supply chains, and improved logistics efficiency. Second, Texas provides ample, cost-effective power, ideal for energy-intensive industries like server manufacturing. And third, Texas offers tax incentives, low energy costs, and land subsidies, attracting tech and manufacturing firms such as Foxconn and Nvidia. The project is set to run from May to December this year, with Inventec's U.S. subsidiary tasked with securing a suitable Texas facility for an advanced server assembly line. Funding will combine internal capital and bank loans. Supply chain sources indicate a preference for leasing existing facilities over new construction to accelerate production, targeting a start in late 2025. Taiwan Central News Agency notes that the investment excludes subsequent capital expenditures like machinery, with a final site and timeline still pending confirmation. Inventec's expertise and prominence in the server industry makes its Texas project significant. A global leader in server motherboard design and manufacturing, its products support cloud computing, AI data centers, and enterprise servers for clients like Nvidia, Microsoft, Google, and Dell. With rising demand for AI and cloud computing, the expanding server market positions Inventec's U.S. facility to enhance client proximity, speed up deliveries, and reduce tariff costs. The Trump administration's manufacturing return policy, alongside subsidies from the CHIPS and Science Act, encourages firms to relocate critical technologies to the U.S. Inventec's Texas plant responds to these policies while strategically positioning the company to capitalize on the AI market surge. On April 29th, marking 100 days of President Trump's administration, the White House held a press conference. U.S. Treasury Secretary Bessent said, "This indicates that the Trump administration's goal of bringing manufacturing back to the U.S. is not focused on traditional manufacturing, but rather the reconstruction of new industries. This is not just an economic policy, but a strategic reset of the nation's systems." Bessent mentioned high-quality industrial jobs and future industries, and Inventec's Texas plant will create high-tech job opportunities aligning with this vision.
Another important, very important function of this that does not get talked about enough is national security. President Trump, his overriding the concern and belief is that economic security is national security is economic security, and we saw during COVID that our supply chains got cut off. And we need to bring back a lot of those supply chains, whether it's in semiconductors, medicines, the steel, and we have to onshore those. So it's a combination of making trade free and fair and remedying this gaping national security hole that he was left with.
In this statement, Bessent highlighted the core idea of economic security is national security. The U.S. has become overly dependent on overseas supply chains, particularly those in China, for critical products like semiconductors, pharmaceuticals, and steel, which jeopardizes national security. Bessent's mention of the huge national security gap not only criticizes the Biden administration, but also reflects the Trump administration's efforts to reshape America's strategic position in the global economy through supply chain localization.
So what we are going to do, one of the most powerful parts of President Trump's 2017 tax bill was full expensing of equipment. We are going to make that, as President Trump said in his speech to Congress,
U.S. policies directly support Inventec's $85 million investment. Though smaller than the multi-billion-dollar investments of other firms, Inventec's server manufacturing expertise holds strategic importance for U.S. AI and cloud computing supply chains. Treasury Secretary Benson stated that high U.S. tariffs on China threatens its economic stability, potentially costing 10 million jobs. Even with reduced tariffs, China could lose 5 million jobs. The U.S. maintains 18 key trade relationships, with progress in 17, while China is increasingly isolated. Further discussions with trade partners are planned in the coming weeks. Inventec operates 3 production bases in mainland China, and its new U.S. factory will likely reduce orders for these facilities. On April 30th, Taiwan's leading semiconductor packaging and testing firm ASE Technology Holdings and panel manufacturer AUO Corporation announced plans to establish U.S. factories, sharing these details during their respective earnings calls. ASE's CFO Dong-Hong Si noted that the company is evaluating U.S. production capacity at clients' request, with active internal discussions and strong interest. AUO's chairman Peng Shuanglang disclosed plans to consider a U.S. facility for back-end module or finished product assembly. Industry experts are optimistic. ASE's U.S. factory is expected to collaborate closely with TSMC's U.S. plants, capturing more advanced packaging orders and strengthening Taiwan's semiconductor ecosystem in the U.S. AUO will be the first Taiwanese panel maker to establish a Made in America presence. Taiwan's power supply leader Liteon plans to expand its U.S. manufacturing. On April 30th, CEO Chu Sen-bin announced a 2 to 3 billion Taiwan dollar investment to acquire land in the U.S. 4 times larger than its current Texas facility, with the deal expected by year-end and production starting in 2027. Meanwhile, Liteon has halted expansion plans in mainland China. President Trump aims to revive Made in America, but the tech industry cites high labor costs and incomplete supply chains as major challenges. Liteon, a decade-long U.S. manufacturing player, is inviting upstream suppliers, such as case stamping, sliding rails, battery modules, and packaging firms, to join. CEO Chu Sen-bin emphasized prioritizing expensive and heavy components as a fragmented supply chain risks failure. Resources are critical to success. While Liteon cannot replicate an entire national supply chain, it aims to build one for its BBU product line, meeting the needs of 2 existing BBU clients and attracting more cloud service providers. On April 29th, U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick visited TSMC's Phoenix, Arizona factory to mark the Trump administration's 100-day milestone, witnessing the groundbreaking of its 3rd plant. Lutnick stated, TSMC's investment highlights the resurgence of U.S. manufacturing, driven by President Trump's leadership at an unprecedented pace. TSMC reported that its first Arizona wafer fab began producing 4-nanometer chips by late 2024, establishing it as the U.S.'s most advanced semiconductor facility. The second fab, now completed, will use 3-nanometer technology to meet robust AI chip demand from clients like Apple, AMD, Nvidia, Qualcomm, and Broadcom, with construction ahead of schedule by at least 2 quarters. The third fab, recently breaking ground, will adopt 2-nanometer and A16 processes, further strengthening U.S. semiconductor manufacturing. TSMC's Arizona project is projected to create 6,000 direct jobs, 20,000 construction-related roles, and tens of thousands of supply chain positions. Chairman C.C. Wei described it as the largest single foreign investment in the U.S., exceeding $65 billion, with the third fab introducing advanced semiconductor technologies to address AI, high-performance computing, and smartphone needs. Apple CEO Tim Cook TSMC's largest Arizona client, expressed pride in generating high-skilled jobs and optimism for U.S. innovation. Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang noted local production of AI supercomputer infrastructure, crediting government support for enabling the next industrial revolution. AMD CEO Lisa Su highlighted collaboration with TSMC to produce fifth-generation EPYC processors using N2 technology, advancing high-performance computing. Foxconn, Quanta, Wistron, and their server subsidiaries like WeWin and Compal have progressively invested in U.S. factories or expanded existing capacities. Among major Taiwanese manufacturers, only Pegatron's U.S. plans remain unclear, with nearly all other committed to Made in America. In late March, Foxconn's parent, Honhai Precision, announced that its subsidiary, Foxconn Technology, invested $142 million to acquire land and a factory in Houston, Texas. Analysts suggest this expansion targets AI server production for North American clients. Chairman Lu Yang-wei stated that production collaborations across several U.S. states will increase, with capital expenditures projected to rise over 20% this year. Since 2018, Quanta has diversified its server production across Taiwan, Thailand, the U.S., and Germany in response to U.S.-China trade tensions. It was the first Taiwanese manufacturer to boost U.S. investment before Trump's inauguration and new tariffs. Senior Vice President Yang Qing-ling noted ongoing U.S. expansion with California and Tennessee factories handling assembly and testing. Quanta plans further growth at these sites and has expanded laptop production in Thailand and Vietnam alongside China. Wistron is actively expanding its U.S. manufacturing. On December 20th last year, it announced a $25 million investment to upgrade its Texas factory for AI server after-sales services. In early April, Wistron's board approved a new U.S. subsidiary, WIUS, to invest up to $50 million in land and a factory, marking its first large-scale AI product manufacturing base in the U.S. In late February, WeWin approved a Texas factory, investing $300 million into its U.S. subsidiary, WIMUS, its first U.S. manufacturing site, with a total investment nearing 10 billion Taiwan dollars. In February, Compal Electronics invested an additional $10 million into its Indiana subsidiary to expand electric vehicle production capacity. The company continues to evaluate North American expansion plans and is reportedly seeking to acquire AMD's U.S. AI server assembly capacity. On April 14th, Nvidia announced a partnership with TSMC, Foxconn, Wistron, and ASE Group's Siliconware to fully localize AI supercomputer production in the U.S., from chips to assembly. Nvidia anticipates producing up to $500 billion worth of AI infrastructure with these partners over the next 4 years. Previously, Nvidia's AI supercomputer GPUs were manufactured and packaged with CoWoS technology by TSMC in Taiwan, then shipped to Foxconn and Wistron's global assembly sites before reaching the U.S. This initiative marks the first time Nvidia and its key partners have fully localized AI supercomputer production in the U.S., achieving a significant milestone. Nvidia and TSMC are producing Blackwell chips in Arizona, while Foxconn and Wistron are building supercomputer manufacturing facilities in Dallas, Texas, spanning over 1 million square feet. Industry estimates suggest the Foxconn and Wistron plants will begin mass production within 12 to 15 months. Nvidia plans to use its AI, robotics, and Omniverse digital twin technologies to design and operate these AI factories, expected to create hundreds of thousands of jobs and add trillions of USD to U.S. economic security. Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang stated that the U.S. manufacturing will lead global AI infrastructure, meeting significant demand for AI chips and supercomputers while enhancing supply chain resilience. He described AI supercomputers as engines for next-generation data centers, or AI factories, serving as critical infrastructure for the AI industry. Dozens of million-kilowatt AI factories are expected to be built in the coming years, driving AI industry growth. On April 30th, President Trump hosted a White House event for companies committed to U.S. investment. He announced that attending firms pledged $2 trillion with total U.S. investment commitments approaching $8 trillion. Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang showcased a 70-pound GPU with 60,000 parts and 10,000 watts of power, requiring hundreds of suppliers, robotic handling, and supercomputer testing. He called it the generator of the AI era, converting electricity into intelligence to advance the AI industry. Huang stressed that this is not merely an industry upgrade, but a transformation of all sectors, including healthcare, pharmaceuticals, finance, education, and life sciences, through the AI infrastructure chain. Trump mentioned that the upcoming tax cut bill, which is expected to pass in Congress, will allow businesses to make tax-free expenditures.
Cut your taxes from almost 40% down to 21%. Now we're bringing your taxes down from 21% to 15% if you build your product, make your product in the USA. So if you make it in the USA, those chips, those beautiful chips, we'll make those suckers in the USA, and you're going to be all the way down to 15%. And I think there's never been anything like it. So now we're at the lowest scale for a large country, by far the lowest scale.
The Trump administration's Made in America policy, leveraging high tariffs and subsidies, has driven supply chain localization, attracting Taiwanese manufacturers like Inventec, TSMC, and Nvidia to establish U.S. factories with investments nearing $8 trillion. This significantly enhances the global competitiveness of U.S. AI and semiconductor industries. Long-term, the strategy will reshape global supply chains, particularly amid AI industry globalization, strengthening U.S. technological autonomy and economic security. Additionally, U.S.-Taiwan collaboration bolsters Taiwan's security and resilience against geopolitical risks. Conversely, China faces significant losses in the supply chain shift, potentially losing numerous jobs and facing a severe setback to its future AI competitiveness.